Welcome to the Catholic Journey with Deacon Pat Kearns, where we don't just talk about faith, we enter into it. Today, I want to tell you a story, not an argument, not a debate, a story. Because sometimes truth is not first encountered through explanation, but through a life being gently and sometimes painfully transformed. This is a story of a man who loved God, who served Him sincerely, who believed he already had the fullness of the truth until truth began asking something more of him. His name is Daniel, and his life was firmly rooted in the teachings of the Church of the Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. His faith wasn't casual, it was structured, disciplined, intentional. He served his mission faithfully. He defended what he believed with clarity. He lived with conviction. And he loved God. That matters. Because what was about to happen next was not a rebellion. It was not indifference. It was the beginning of awakening. Because doubt, when it comes to a sincere soul, does not arrive as an enemy. It arrives as a question. It began quietly, a thought that refused to disappear. If Christ founded a church, how could it vanish? He had always been taught the church fell, truth was lost, authority disappeared until it was restored. But now that explanation no longer settled him, because if Jesus is truly God, then his promises must be real, enduring, unbreakable. And Christ said, "The gates of hell shall not prevail against it." So Daniel began to wrestle with something deeper. Either the church never truly disappeared, or something in his understanding was incomplete. What began as a defense became discovery. Late nights, quiet reading, a search he didn't tell anyone about. He encountered Ignatius of Antioch, who spoke of the Eucharist not as a symbol, but as the flesh of Christ. He read Justin Martyr, describing a liturgy that looked unmistakably Catholic. And then Augustine of Hippo, who spoke not of a hidden church, but a visible, authoritative, enduring one. This wasn't corruption, this wasn't loss, this was continuity, and Daniel felt it, like the ground beneath him beginning to shift. Truth had moved from something outside of him to something pressing within him. Because truth is not just something you discover, it is something that asks something of you. Daniel wasn't just reconsidering theology, he was confronting his life, his identity, his relationships, his belonging. What would this mean for his family, for his community, for everything he had built? And perhaps the most unsettling question, what if I'm being led somewhere I never intended to go? Eventually, he walked into a Catholic parish, sat across from a priest, and for a moment, he couldn't even find the words, because something in him knew this mattered. When he finally spoke, it wasn't polished, it was honest. I think something is missing, or maybe something has always been missing. The priest didn't argue, he listened, then asked, "Daniel, if Jesus is truly present in the Eucharist, body, blood, soul, and divinity, wouldn't that change everything?" Everything. Because if that is true, this is no longer about choosing a church. It is about encountering Christ. Still searching, Daniel visited a religious sister. Her life was simple, hidden, peaceful in a way that couldn't be explained. He asked her, "How do you know this is true?" She smiled gently and said, "I don't just know it, I receive Him." And in that moment, Daniel realized something profound. She didn't just believe something, she lived in someone. And yet, he was still in between, not where he had been, but not yet where he was being called. After one conversation, the priest said something unexpected. Daniel, sometimes answers don't come only through study. He paused, then asked, "Have you ever been to Medjugorje?" Daniel hadn't. The priest explained simply, "A place of prayer, of conversion, of encounter. People go with questions and often leave changed." There was no pressure, just an invitation. Days later, Daniel mentioned his struggle to a friend, carefully, quietly, and the friend said, "I've been there, to Medjugorje." Daniel looked up. "I didn't go because I believed everything," the friend said. "I went because something in me needed to change." A pause, and it did. Now the invitation was no longer singular. It was confirmed, echoed, and for the first time Daniel asked a different question. "Am I being led?" The decision wasn't dramatic. No certainty, no clarity, just a quiet yes. He booked the trip, told almost no one, because he didn't yet understand what he was doing. But beneath the uncertainty, there was something new, hope. At Medjugorje, before sunrise, he began climbing Apparition Hill. The rocks were sharp, unsteady. Each step required effort, and with each step something interior was unfolding. This was no longer intellectual. This was surrender in motion. Halfway up, he stopped, not from exhaustion, but from encounter. No voice, no spectacle, but unmistakable. A presence, a stillness, a clarity that didn't come from reasoning, but from being known. Everything converged, the writings, the questions, the longing, not solved like a problem, but fulfilled like a promise. Daniel dropped to his knees, and for the first time, he didn't pray to understand. He prayed to surrender. Conversion is not a moment. It is a series of yeses. Daniel returned home changed. He entered RCIA. He faced questions, concern, loss, but beneath it all there was peace, because truth, when found, anchors the soul. And at the Easter Vigil, he was received into the Catholic Church, not because he abandoned truth, but because he found it fulfilled. Maybe you're listening today, and something is stirring, a question, a curiosity, a quiet unrest. Don't ignore it, because God often speaks not in noise, but in invitation. And sometimes the path to truth is not a straight line, it's a climb. This is the Catholic Journey, and maybe it's your turn to climb. Thank you for listening today. I hope you have a wonderful evening. God bless you, and may God always be close to you.